Howdy. I sincerely hope that whoever, wherever, and whenever you may be, that you're doing well. Today I wanted to get into an experience that I had just a couple months ago now that really completely changed my entire perception on life, on this reality, just on everything. And really I've felt completely different ever since this experience, and I just wanted to share it with you, just to give some of my backstory, I suppose. It's really the reason why I made this channel to begin with, is from this experience. So hopefully in sharing it, maybe it'll inspire you in some way. So just to give a little bit of preface for this experience, I'm going to start in the beginning of December of 2025. At that point, I had been going through what I would consider to be, I suppose, a dark night of the soul for probably about 3 years at that point. And I was reaching a place where I was just completely fed up and done just with everything. I suppose I had hit what I would consider rock bottom for me during that period. And it led me to increasingly just let go of more and more things until I reached a point where I just I stopped trying anything myself, and I recognized that it just wasn't worth the struggle. And that was really the point where I started to pray again and just ask for some kind of help truly outside of myself, because I had just reached my breaking point, and it had taken that for me to reach out and try to get some help and guidance. I started watching more spiritual videos and reading more books and such, just to try to get to help me along the path and to try to figure out some way of easier receiving guidance. And at one point I had started to be recommended videos of Bashar, which is, if you don't know who that is, effectively they're a representative of an extraterrestrial group known as the Essassani, and he channels through Daryl Anka. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But he just has a lot of really key advice, in my opinion, in regards to all of this stuff. And it really started to just open up my mind a bit to certain things and to get me to start trying things. So I started to see a lot of him just on YouTube, and I also started to see a lot of just synchronicities in my everyday life that were involving him. And eventually it led me to the point where, because one of the things that he talks about is following your highest excitement as guidance from your higher self. And this led me to, I decided to give it a try. I just wanted to try following my excitement in the heat of the moment, because I just was so not used to doing that. And it led me to planning out a trip that I was going to go on just the next day. I was going to go out to the coast and just be in nature and go see some cool things. And really that was one of the first times that I did something like that completely on my own. I'd always been with other people and also had heavily planned a trip like that. So it was the first time I really spontaneously just decided to go on a little trip and see what happened. So I decided to follow my excitement and to trust and just go on this trip. And as soon as I decided that, I noticed that I just felt different. I felt more excited, and I felt just certain feelings that I hadn't really felt since I was a kid. So I packed up and I prepared and left the next day. And the whole drive out there, it was probably maybe a 5.5 hour drive. There were so many synchronicities that I literally just couldn't view it as coincidence if I tried. I was asking for guidance from my spirit team, and just asking for various signs or synchronicities in general. And every single time that I asked a question, it would immediately be answered, whether it was from a lyric in a song that I was currently listening to, or there were multiple times where literally I would drive past a billboard that would have the exact message on it that I needed. And there was even one of the billboards literally just had the text of the message that I needed with no brand or advertisement or anything. It was literally just a blank billboard with the text of what I needed to hear. So I started to, just from experiencing those things, I started to get more and more excited and kind of tripped out by all of it. And it was really raising my vibration. And one of the things I experienced was I'd stopped at a gas station just to fill up and also to use the bathroom. And when I went in the bathroom, like scratched onto one of the walls in the stall was literally, it said, "Enjoy the trip," with a winky face. And it was literally signed the Tetragrammaton. Like, it was that message just with a little dash and the Tetragrammaton. So that definitely tripped me out as well. So I made my way out there, and the first couple days I had a good time. Like, I was just in nature and enjoying being on my own and just doing whatever I felt like in the moment. But I won't bore you too much with that because it wasn't too significant. It was really the second night of that trip where I had just a completely reality-shattering experience, and like more and more things just kept happening that put me in complete disbelief. So the way that night started was that day I had gotten a pendulum, and I also picked up like a candle, and I just wanted to try to connect truly with my guides or with whatever was trying to communicate with me at the time. So I started asking questions with the pendulum, and I was getting really strong answers, which it broke away a lot of my doubt. And just in interacting with my guides, I just kept getting more and more emotional and more excited, and just I was welling up from the whole experience, And it wasn't until after dark, it was probably around like midnight at this point, I was directed by my guides to go outside onto the beach and to look up at the night sky. So I went out and I did that, and immediately my eyes locked on with the star Sirius, and when I looked at the star, I didn't even know which star that it was, like I didn't really know anything about astronomy or astrology or anything like that. I'm learning a bit more now, but I just stared up at Sirius for a while, and I felt this really strange feeling of longing and nostalgia and almost like a grief when I looked up at that star. And it's like I felt feelings that I can only describe as it felt like that was my true home, or like I'd recognize that it's like all of the feelings that I'd ever felt about this place, Earth not really vibing with me, if that makes sense. It all just kind of confirmed that for me in a way that I still don't really know how to describe. So I went back inside after that, and I asked my guides for, a little bit more clarification on things, and I determined that it was the star Sirius, and I just started to learn a bit about it. And I was really tripped out by just how much stuff related to Sirius in spirituality resonated with me on such a deep level that again, I couldn't possibly view it as coincidence with how specific it got. And probably an hour and a half later, I was called again to go look outside up at the night sky. And when I looked, what I saw, that was the first thing really that I'd ever experienced while completely sober that made me fully feel down to my core like, oh man, this reality ain't what it seems. Like, it really shattered the illusion for me in a lot of ways. When I looked out at the sky, and I'm going to try to use my hands to just picture looking at the video, you're looking at the night sky, if that makes any sense. So the Orion constellation was up here, at the all the way top right, and Sirius was about here, probably like directly in the middle of the camera, if the camera was the night sky. And stretching from the Orion constellation, and like right around here was the horizon, which was the ocean. Stretching from Orion was literally a perfectly straight, solid line of white light. And it was, I literally like got a pair of binoculars and spent like 15 minutes just staring at it in disbelief. And it wasn't a jet trail. It literally was a perfectly straight line, and it was casting light. And another thing that, after watching it for a while, that I noticed was that it, while completely holding its shape and maintaining its, it being a straight line, it would literally bob up and down just such huge portions of the sky that like it felt like it broke my brain a little bit just seeing that. And I sat and I watched this for a while, and I kept like rubbing my eyes and like asking myself, like, am I dreaming right now, or is this real? And like I also, I was completely sober, and I wasn't on any kind of medications or anything. I wasn't really sleep deprived. And so I was trying to go through everything in my mind of what could this possibly be other than just what I'm directly seeing. So after watching this line for a while, eventually I noticed there was what at first I thought was a dim blue star, but I noticed that it was moving. And as soon as I noticed that it was moving, it began to move much faster, and in ways that, it wasn't like a plane or a satellite. It literally, if this was the line, it would literally like bob and weave up and down this line, like going back and forth, and just it would weave around in other areas of the sky, literally just like a UFO. And sometimes it would even literally teleport from one place to another. And I watched that for a while and looked at it with my binoculars just in complete disbelief. I probably spent a total of 45 minutes just sitting out there looking up at the sky, being in disbelief. And at the very end of me sitting out there and looking, I was following that star with my binoculars, just trying to like keep up with its movements. And at one moment, it literally just froze, like dead in its tracks, like right in the line of sight of my binoculars. It just completely stopped. And it sat there for a moment, and then it literally perfectly in the sights of my two binoculars just teleported back and forth. And I got just such a strong energy of like, hey, look at me, like I know you're down there. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. But it's literally like I got just such an unbelievably strong urge that this thing noticed me and that it was saying hi by just moving back and forth between the sights of my binoculars. So after that, that's really one of the things that really did it for me. I went back inside and I just sat again in disbelief for a little while. And I started to ask my guides what had happened, and I ended up getting connected with Bashar, and I found out that effectively that was one of his ships, if you will. Like it's a bit different from a physical ship, like, a ship that a human would build, but I got just a lot of confirmation that that was him, and that was kind of like the first test of my consciousness, just to show me something like that and to see if I could take it and to see how I would react to it. And I've had other experiences since then that have continued to test the limits, but I got that confirmation and I just felt incredibly grateful and more excited than I'd ever felt before. Like at this point, already my entire worldview was completely different, and it's been different ever since. But after that, like probably after maybe 20 minutes of just continuing to talk with my guides, I started to feel this truly overwhelming feeling in my chest, in my heart chakra, really. It started off as just this like emotional pressure, and it wasn't a negative thing. It was very much a feeling of release, kind of like when you cry. And I started to feel this feeling build more and more until I reached a point where, it really felt like as strong as a psychedelic experience. There was so much energy in my chest that, I was sobbing at this point. Like, I reached a point where literally I was crying so hard that I wasn't even really, making any noises anymore. My whole body was just completely locked up, and my mouth was just agape, and tears were just flooding down my face. And I felt this energy, and really it was a feeling of, it felt like everything that I had ever been through in my entire life, everything that had ever felt unfair, everything that felt like it really affected me or hurt, but was never seen or understood by anyone. It all just simultaneously, just all at once, felt like it was seen and just fully recognized and understood and appreciated by something so much bigger than me. And I just felt these feelings of the most intense gratitude and release that I'd ever felt before. There were even moments where I felt like my whole body was just going to explode into energy. It even led to me, at the end of it, I was literally just fully collapsed on the ground. I don't even know how to describe the state that I was in, but it felt like this positive and loving energy that fully had seen me. It filled up my chest area and literally just from the pressure forced out or pushed out anything that was still negative in there. And that really, I haven't felt physically the same ever since that. And I feel like that was effectively the first major heart chakra opening that I had. But shortly after I was still sobbing, but I'd collected myself a little bit, and I asked, I didn't use the pendulum or anything. I literally just asked out loud, what is this, or who is this? What am I experiencing? And I felt immediately compelled to just pull up my phone and hit shuffle in my music library, and the song that popped up was Let It Be by the Beatles. It's a full song about Mother Mary. And as soon as I just recognized that, I completely broke down into more sobbing and just this emotional release. Because it felt like, that was the first thing truly that felt like it physically connected with something in my body. And, I'm not religious myself, but I don't know how to say it other than it was Mother Mary. And now, and I'll probably get into this at some point in the future, but now I recognize that, it's not just Mother Mary, it's effectively something called the Divine Mother Matrix, or just the Divine Mother Consciousness, and it's taken many different forms just depending on whatever it interacts with. I feel that Isis is the same entity, if you will, and that they just had, there's a big difference between the archetypes and the things that worked for the consciousnesses of people in Egypt versus, people who are in modern day America. But I felt this connection with the Divine Mother, and I felt this overwhelming feeling like that was officially the end of my old life in a lot of ways, in that I was never again going to do anything that didn't align with me, or that felt like I never again was going to do something or do anything that felt like it crushed my soul, but that I felt I had to do for whatever reason, money or just responsibility or whatever it was. I truly felt for the first time ever, really, that no matter what it takes, I'm going to do what my soul wants to do, and I'm not going to do anything else. And one of the first things that really I felt like I was drawn to do was start making content, to start sharing my experiences with other people, to share not just experiences like this, but to also give some insight on some of the times where I've struggled the most in my life, because I've recognized now that, you know, I had an incredibly rough past in a lot of ways, and I understand now that those experiences were necessary in order for me to help other people who may be going through those experiences, and especially other young people who just don't know, who just don't really have any kind of guidance or reference point, because I know there's a lot of people that feel that way. And after a while of just sitting with those feelings in my heart space and just understanding and accepting what that experience was, I kind of just, I was still incredibly excited, and I didn't sleep for hours after that. But after that point, ever since then, I've felt connected to other things, to my guidance, and to just incredibly unconditionally loving entities or beings, or however you want to look at it. And I've been introduced to so much more than I ever thought I would be. And it's truly, it's what I live for now. I really feel like ever since then, I've still been in a spiritual experience. It's like that experience just never ended, I've experienced so many unbelievable synchronicities to the point where it literally just, I know deep down that it was just something communicating directly to me through reality and just through, synchronicities or coincidences, which I don't believe in coincidences at all anymore. But that is really the first major, truly spiritual experience that I had that fully locked me into just going all in on this, because for a long time I had felt hesitant and still skeptical, just in not wanting to be viewed as crazy by anyone, not wanting to go too deep, if that makes sense. But after that experience, I fully just recognized oh, none of that other stuff matters. This is what matters, And I promised, or I swore to myself at that point, that I would tell my story and that I would tell my truth no matter what happened, no matter if I got any kind of opposition or any kind of anything that would have caused me fear previously. And in sharing these experiences, I definitely have had some, I've learned who my friends are, and I've had a lot of, I did, multiple times now, I have been called crazy. I've been accused of going through a psychosis and of, my ego being inflated or whatever it may be. And those were all things that I was very afraid of hearing before. But after that experience and other experiences afterwards, I I just realized that all that stuff doesn't matter anymore, and that, this is bigger than me, and that I needed to, if I really wanted to fulfill what I wanted to do and what I believed in, that I would have to let go of the way that people viewed me, and also to trust that in doing that, the right people would either stick around or new people would come in who would appreciate me for all of this, because really I don't view myself as superior to anyone or as even more spiritually tapped into anyone, because we're all here for a purpose. We all have these abilities. There's so much more possible for all of us than most anyone realizes. And I mean, one of my main reasons for wanting to share my experiences and for making content is to try to help people do the same, to help people have these experiences themselves, to help people learn how to heal themselves. Because this whole, especially in spirituality, the whole game of like one-upping each other, trying to feel like you know more than other people, or trying to feel like that spiritual ego, really, it completely goes against everything that spirituality is and everything that creativity or creation is, at this point, I honestly feel like arguing about beliefs or trying to prove someone's beliefs wrong is like arguing about a favorite color or a favorite fruit, and like trying to convince someone that their opinion on what their favorite thing is wrong, which that just doesn't make sense. Everyone has a different perception of things and different things that work for their consciousness and things that don't. And who are we to judge others, Because really it's not our place. And I truly believe that there isn't anything that I've experienced that can't be experienced by anyone else. There isn't anything that I can do that other people can't do. And truly my goal is to just help other people recognize this and to help them to tap into their own power and to help them to see what's possible. Because, just following along with other people and assuming that you're lesser for any reason, it's not true. Because we all have the divine in us, and we are all creators, and we have so much more power in this reality than we might realize. But there's just a lot of people who don't really know how to tap into that. So that's really what my main goal of this channel was. Besides just putting myself out there and sharing these experiences, I just want to help people. Because I recognize that there's so much that can be looked at and experienced that's negative, but there's so much more that's positive that can be had, like truly so much more. And until you learn to become aware of this and you consciously choose the positive things in life, and that doesn't mean ignoring your shadow or trying to sweep things under the rug, but choosing a positive future and a positive perspective and not looking at everything through a negative or a very dimmed lens, it will completely change everything for you. And it, starting out, it may not feel all that powerful or like all that much change is happening, but it'll build. You'll be taken places that you won't believe. And I truly believe that where we're heading, as humanity, is more and more of these types of experiences, more and more openness, more and more letting go of old patterns, old limiting belief systems and fears, and stepping into just a completely new way of life altogether. And I just want to help as many people as I can, if I can, just to step into that new life and to come along with me and with everyone else who is moving there. Because, I mean, there's a lot of us, you know? And if you're just beginning to look into these things, like, welcome, and I hope you stick around, because believe me, it's worth it. I have a good amount more experiences that I would like to share, especially if anyone's interested, that I'm going to hold off on for now, just to not make this video too long. But I really am, I can't tell you how excited I am for the future. And there is so much that we're stepping into that so many people, it's beyond even their wildest dreams. And I encourage you to stick around for that. But even if you don't decide to stay, like even if you don't stick with this channel or whatever, if there's one thing that you should take away, it's to turn inward and to start paying attention to your thoughts and the way you feel, and learn how to shift your perspective psychologically to feel the way that you want to feel, as opposed to trying to change things in your external reality first to change the way you feel. Because really, I mean, something that I heard in a video recently was, I think his name is Chosen144. He was effectively saying that if you're trying to manifest something, just, think about something that you desire, that you want really badly. If in getting that thing you will feel different, like if, right now you feel a certain way and you think that once you get that thing outside of you that you'll feel different, that is literally broadcasting a frequency of lack and is signaling to the universe that you aren't ready for that thing. Whereas if you can shift internally to a point where you wouldn't feel different having received that thing, you're just already prepared for it, and you're already happy to the point where, or content to the point where you just know that that thing is going to come either way. Or even better yet, if you can just become completely content and happy just with yourself and with your own mind without needing external things. That's really the key to finding contentment and happiness, because it starts with us, It's as within, so without, not as without, so within. And that's what not everybody, but so many people are trying to do, is they're trying to change things or get things outside of themselves before turning inward. And it's just going to keep repeating cycles and just going to cause more of the same. So if there's anything that I encourage you to really do and think about, it's that. It's learning how to change inward in the ways that you want, and in a way even disregarding this external reality and recognizing that the circumstances don't really matter. It's all our own perspective and the way that we feel about things that gives us the perception of anything, that gives us any kind of experience, But I think that's going to do it for today. If that experience interests you and you'd like to hear more about my experiences, please let me know in the comments. And if you've ever had any experiences like this, also, if you're willing, please share them in the comments, because I love seeing other people's just other people tapping into these things and doing it themselves, because we all can, There's not any of us that's more special than the other. We're all infinitely special in a lot of ways, but we're all also fully capable of all of these things. But yeah, that is going to do it. So I wish you a very wonderful day, evening, or night, and as usual, stay light. Do you hear that? It's the winds of change.